We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. You all could hear, all in favor, please respond by saying aye or a positive sign online. Aye. Tex, did you hear? Is that an aye for you as well on the agenda? All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, has every member had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, we'll entertain a motion to approve those. Second. Motion to approve made by Luanda, seconded by Joseph. All in favor, please respond by saying aye or positive sign. Aye. That unanimous? Text. Tex, is that an aye for you as well? But motion does pass. We will not count that one. We will jump into staff reports, start with Wichita Fire Department.
Lieutenant Hatcher of Station 10. Right now, just remind everybody that the burn ban's gonna be in April, so that'll be coming. Currently, we have 21 recruits in our EMT academy. They'll be starting the fire side mid-March to late March, depending on how they do, what they need to do emergency medicine. We just had a hazmat tech course that we taught with Sedgwick County. We graduated 10 of our members, 9 of theirs, and then had 1 member from Emporia attend. We had 2 fires in the district this month. 1 was arson and 1 was accidental.
That was pretty
Sweet.
Yeah. Any questions for fire from the DAP? Seeing none, any from the public?
Stay safe.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Go.
You too. It might have been the quickest reporter. All right, do we have? You know, WPD's report? You know? We don't have WPD. We will skip them unless Stark joins us later. Skip into public library.
Hi, everyone. The Angelo branch will reopen on March the 17th, and the Westlink branch will reopen on March the 24th. Plans for grand reopening celebrations are in the works and will be announced later on this spring. From March the 5th to the 24th, Westlink branch will offer limited hours for drive-through services for holds and returns only. Those hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturday 1 to 5, closed on Sundays. The Rockwell branch will begin its next phase of construction, and the last day they will be open is March the 16th, and they're expected to remain closed until fall 2025. While Rockwell is closed, Angelo will be expanding its hours. Those hours are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8, Friday and Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sunday, 1 to 5, and will be closed on Sundays from Memorial Day to Labor Day. We're launching our Big Read program, exploring Sitting Pretty, The View from My Ordinary Resilient Disabled Body by Rebecca Talsic. There will be a kickoff celebration at 6:30 p.m. on the 14th of March at the Advanced Learning Library. And then from the 14th to the 26th of April, we'll have a range of programs that are related. More information can be found at wichitabigree.org. The next item, due to weather closures, Amplify 365, a year-long series honoring Black culture, presented by Dr. Latasha Kelly, had to be postponed, and the rescheduling date is March the 12th from 6 to 7 p.m. There are tons of programs for kids and teens for spring break. That will be from March the 14th to the 22nd. Please visit wichitalibrary.org/events for further details. And then finally, I'd like to share a couple of programs that I planned myself. In partnership with Centerwell's Senior Primary Care, we're going to be providing the dedicated Readers Book Club. It will be on March the 5th from 1 to 3 at Centerwell Senior Primary Care. That's at 2402 East 13th Street. It will be an opportunity for seniors to meet fellow book lovers. We'll connect people to assistive technologies if they're looking for new ways to read. I invite you all. And then we're going to be providing a Smartphones for Beginners program that will be here at the Atwater Neighborhood Resource Center on the 13th of March from 2:30 to 4. We will cover Apple phones and Android phones and recommend affordable alternatives. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Any questions for Parker from the dad?
Did you mention Read Across America?
No, I did not.
You doing anything?
I can figure that out and come back to you. Any other questions?
Smartphones for
Smartphones for Beginners,
March 24th.
March the 13th.
13th, thank you.
Any questions from the public?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, sir. Right, Park and Rec, I didn't see anything in the packet. Well, I'll give my normal Park and Rec. Brewer Center will be open in the summer, so definitely go check that out in June. And if you haven't been by Edgemoor, most of the outside work is complete and it looks great and will look amazing this spring, so check that out. With that, we'll jump into Public Works.
Good evening, I'm Steve Dagenhart. I'm the Assistant City Engineer for Public Works Engineering. Gonna cover some projects we have actively under construction and then also talk about some projects that we have ongoing design work for, so. First projects under construction, Commerce in St. Francis. Right now, contractors working on wrapping both of those, or at least getting both projects to a phase that we can reopen them here with the upcoming events surrounded by the tournament down there by the arena. Once that work, or once they clean up here over the next week and once the tournament passes, they'll resume their work the week after the tournament and look for that project to continue through the third quarter of this year. Downtown two-way conversions have been in the news a bit. We're looking at Emporia from Central to Murdoch being opened up to two-way traffic tomorrow morning. The first, Emporia from Kellogg up to Central was converted here a few years ago. This project completes the rest of Emporia up to Murdoch. And then Topeka from Waterman to Murdoch will then be converted and opened up to two-way traffic next week, as well as English from Maine to Emporia, basically the arena. And then Main and Market, those conversions will occur then in late March, maybe mid-April or so. Pavement preservation work, have some ongoing work from last year's program still underway related to concrete streets. But the 2025 program, our first projects, the asphalt overlay bid last Friday, and we had 2 successful bids. So City Council will see those contracts for award here within a couple weeks, as well as our preservative seal. We had a successful bid last week. That preservative seal will be primarily summer work. look to have our micro surface, which is primarily a lot of our residential street overlays, bid here in late March. And then Councilmember Johnson touched on Brewer Center. I'm gonna come back to Bleckley here later because I want to go into a lot more detail regarding it. 15th Street Bridge at the Drainage Canal, working to wrap up final bridge plans within the next couple months. I think the art component for that project still has to go to Design Council for final approval as well as the City Council. So 17th Street from I-135 to Hillside is still ongoing through design, and easement acquisitions, temporary easement acquisitions are in progress there. And 37th from Hydraulic to Hillside is also under design, kind of slated for a 2026 construction there. And I think the last project really is the KDOT North Junction. Right now 29th Street and Hydraulic intersection is closed basically through this month, maybe part of April, weather pending for the bridge girder placement. Overall, that project's looking to be completed in the third quarter of 2026. And so with that, I'll back up to Bleckley here for a little bit more detailed information. So Bleckley Drainage, design on that project began in 2023. And the city held, public information meeting, as well as took that design concept to the city council in 2024. And then just last week, city council approved the funding that we had slated for basically the phase 1 construction of that project, which phase 1 being the drainage channel that is between Kellogg and Waterman, basically just along the west side of the VA hospital. So we're looking to bid that project here late March, early April, and that construction we would expect to last somewhere between 6 to 9 months to rebuild that channel. And that work really sets the stage then for phase 2, which would be the construction of the actual storm sewer drainage box north of Waterman up to Elm Street. That phase 2, we're gonna actually split some of that work into different packages, because part of that work includes reconstructing a sanitary sewer main that runs down the middle of runs down the middle of Bleckley, as well as requires additional water main construction through that neighborhood. So we look to have probably another public information meeting to update, those residents along that corridor and such, probably here April, maybe even May timeframe. And overall still look to probably start some of that construction, particularly with the city utility work, sewer and water, probably in 2025 with the drainage component, and then follow after that. But we think by splitting those projects up into those multiple phases gives us the best chance of finishing the overall improvements in the shortest time possible. So which is still expected, and I think we're shooting for the 2026, 2027 time. And with that, that's all the updates. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from that? Any DAB members online have questions? Any questions from the public? Man, it's going smooth tonight. All right, thank you, Steve. Are you doing the
No, we got Andrew to cover this.
Gary Jansen clone is here?
Yeah.
To give the update on phase 2 drought.
My name is Andrew Van Tassel. I'm a special projects coordinator. I am not Gary Jansen. There's 3 DAPs tonight, so Paul Gunselman's doing one, Gary's doing another, and then drew the short straw, so you got for this one. So you want to go to the next slide, Cameron? So just to give you a kind of a basic overview of where we're at. We get our raw water from 2 different sources, from Cheney Reservoir, which we designate as surface water, and then the remaining water is from the Equus beds. We try to maximize, especially since we've been in the drought, the amount of water we're getting from the Equus beds, but the current water treatment plant has, it can only produce a mixture that is right there around 45 to 55% of groundwater. So we also have our ASR, or aquifer storage recovery fields that are up in the kind of northwest portion of the town. And so we receive credits by taking in water from the Little Lark River. Right now, the Equus beds are about 92% full, so they're in pretty good shape. A lot of speculation has been made about, well, why don't we go to El Dorado? El Dorado really isn't a viable source for us because, you know, if we had a regional drought, it is going to be low, just like Cheney Reservoir is. And it also, because of the basin that El Dorado fills from, would actually not fill as fast as Cheney would in this sort of drought situation. So, Cameron, if you go to the next slide. So we provide water to about 500,000 people. Wichita has over 150,000 residential and commercial customers. And then we have 11 wholesale customers. We are working on a new water treatment plant. I'm sure you're aware of. It's out by the Sedgwick County Zoo. And that will take ownership of that facility in April, probably around April 1st. And then we're working on a plan to bring that online with the current water treatment plant, kind of put it through its paces. And depending on drought situations and what time of year, we may be running those two plants concurrently. I mentioned we have 11 wholesale customers. There's 2 wholesale customers that actually are looking at or building their own water treatment plant. So Valley Center is about 2 years away. They will probably use their water rights and cut their usage from our supply by about half. Then Derby is got a considerable amount of water rights in their area. Their plan is to supplement our water with their own during the peak summer months. So that will help out tremendously. Next slide. So as of today, the water level is about 7.5 feet below normal at Cheney Reservoir. So we are remaining in stage 2 of our water restrictions, and the expectations, unless we have large raid events, would be expect to have these water restrictions throughout 2025. We work with the USGS as far as monitoring the inflow into the Cheney Reservoir, and it's at its lowest in 60 years. So the reservoir is about 60 years old, so it's at its lowest inflow since it was created. We actually go back. We received about 7.5 inches of snow recently. That only gave us about 1/2 inch of rain that flowed into Cheney Reservoir. The rains that we had in November actually brought us up about 1 foot. So we would need those sort of heavy rains to fill the Cheney Reservoir. Next one. So also a lot of people talk about the sediment. Why don't you dig deeper and remove the sediment at the bottom of Cheney? The last we looked at it, it's kind of a lose-lose situation. We would spend approximately $100 million to dredge and take out sediment at the bottom of Cheney, and that would only give us an extra 3 months of capacity as far as use. So if you look at the graph here, way down there at the bottom, we're fourth from left as far as the percent pool capacity lost because of sedimentation. So a lot of the work that we've done to Cheney has, kind of made sure that this hasn't been an issue, and we're in great shape as far as sediment compared to other regional water sources. The only silver lining in this whole drought situation is that we have about 2.5 miles of the reservoir that we are actually doing some work on that was much needed at this time. So we're making some repairs to the dam while it's low. And we're hoping that, we can get that complete. Of course, it would be better if the Cheney actually filled up, but we're kind of trying to use this as an opportunity. And we have we're not going to let water out. If for some reason it was going to raise above while they're doing that work, we would terminate the contract just to make sure we can get Cheney to where it needs to be. Want to go to the next slide. So staff works with the Kansas Water Office to ensure that it's an accurate depiction of where we're at as far as the drought. As you can see, some of the other areas Kansas are only in watch or in warning. Unfortunately, right where we need it in those three counties, where Cheney kind of pulls its water inflow from, is still in an emergency situation. And so that's an important that we work with the governor's drought declaration to remain an emergency, because there are state and federal funding to support our continued drought effort. So we do have a plan. We have the foresight about 12, 13 years ago, after we experienced a drought between 2011 and 2012, to have a plan in place if we ran into that again. And so we have a drought response plan. It has 4 progressive stages. It was designed in order for us to survive a Dust Bowl type drought, 1% type drought that would last 8 years. So we can't control the weather. So the drought response plan focuses on outdoor use. That could be up to 20% of our water use for the whole year is used during water season. So as you know, right now we're in stage 2 of this drought response. There are exemptions for businesses that generate their core economic activity from outdoor watering, and then hand watering and drip garden watering are also exempt from that. So if you have a garden, you can hand water or drip water. I'm going to go to the next slide. This one's kind of a busy slide, but this just kind of goes through our 4 stages. Again, so we started in stage 1 in January of 2023. We were already having conversations internal at Wichita months and months before this about how we could save water internally. So we have an internal conservation plan that we meet quarterly with almost every department at the city to discuss how we can save water as a city. Fire department's been a great partner, delaying some training or combining some training so they don't use water, and they use it as effectively and efficiently as possible. And then our facilities make sure that we're using water sense appliances, and that we were actually watering our grasses before we went into stage 2 at a drastically reduced rate to make sure that run as far as conservation. So you can see the main thing we want to point out here is we don't want to get to stage 3. Very small under there in stage 3, all outdoor usage of water is prohibited. Now there are some exemptions for businesses, but that means we would prohibit watering grass. So we don't want to get to stage 3. Stage 4, of course, would be there would be no exemptions. So hopefully it does not come to that, but we're prepared if it does. Next slide. So I talked about the restrictions a little bit. You probably are familiar with this, but basically we allow watering 4 days a week, depending on which quadrant you're in the city. And then Andover residents actually are billed by the city of Wichita, so we include them there. But all of our 11 wholesale customers have water restrictions as well, and they have to submit their water restriction plans for us to approve. It's been kind of a community-wide effort. There are fines associated, but we wanted it to be collaborative and not punitive. So We have not, kind of sent out the water police to go after folks, but we will still continue to issue warnings, penalties as needed. Go to the next slide. So kind of the one-stop shop that you can find out about the drought. There's a kind of dashboard here that tells you what stage we're in, where Cheney Lake is, and what our 12-month rolling average is. I did not touch upon that before, but the 12-month rolling average is what we use instead of just going by Cheney Lake levels. That ensures that we don't come out of a stage too early or go into a stage too quickly, because rains will come and go, but we use the overall year-long average of it. So right now we're at 62.1%. This picture is outdated, but the next stage 3 would be 50% on the 12-month average. But if you go to savewichitawater.com, of course, like I mentioned before, we have the drought update. We have some irrigation education. We worked with the K-State Sedgwick County Extension Office. They have a great staff there that will, if you bring in a plant that's sick, they will tell you what's wrong with it and help you, bring it back to life. But they have a wealth of information that we've linked here, or you could go there, over there on the west side, and visit them. We've got tips on how you can save water, our internal conservation plan, so you can read what we're doing. Some lawn care tips, an irrigation calculator, and then we talk about how we manage our supply. Also has our rebate program that we just reinstated at the end of February here. So you can get a credit on your water bill by buying water efficient appliances and outdoor devices. And so if you want to go to the next slide. So we're kind of, thinking past this drought already. So we're preparing for the next drought and what, the current climate has in store for us. One of the things that I mentioned before was the aquifer storage and recovery project. We basically will pull water out of the Little Arkansas River, or Kansas River. You can see it's at the bottom corner of that picture. But of course, that is dependent on how high that river is. So we run it, we have crews that'll run it 24/7 when the river is high enough. And then we store that and bank those credits so that we can use our credits for groundwater in the future, if we have to. So move on to the next one. We also have local well fields that are pretty close to the current water treatment plant over there off of Museum Boulevard. And so we're making improvements to that and ASR. I think the current budget is around 40 million. So we can get additional credits by filling these up and recharging these. There is a project under design to construct 2 new recharge basins for the ASR facility, and the recharge basins will allow for enhanced artificial recharge and provide for faster aquifer recovery following prolonged drought. The basins will also enhance recharge capabilities during higher aquifer conditions and help to keep the aquifer topped off. Completion of that project is targeted for the end of this year. Next one. Okay, so new water treatment plant, which is named Wichita Water Works. It's a new state-of-the-art facility. It gives us that flexibility. I talked about how we can only water treatment plant only treat a mixture that's around 55-60% groundwater and 40 to 45% surface water, or I'm sorry, vice versa. It's 45% groundwater and 60 to 55% surface water. We take over that facility in spring, and then depending, like I mentioned before, depending on what happens with the drought, that'll impact how we dictate which, if we run both plants concurrently, we put this through its phases and then cut off the main water treatment and run it exclusively. So really exciting development is we've looked at reuse feasibility study. So currently there's about 30 million gallons, or excuse me, there's 25 million gallons of effluent water that we discharge into the Ark River right now. If we could bring that either to the new water treatment plant or have facilities throughout the city or in other areas of the city, then that would solve a lot of our issues if we could use that effluent water, treat it, and then have a direct potable reuse for it. Currently, we have some reuse capabilities with Spirit. They use about 1 million gallons per day. And so that's been a great contract to have. This would solve so much more. We typically use about 50 million gallons a day on average throughout the year. So half of that just coming from our wastewater facility would be a game changer. Next one. And so this kind of goes through exactly what that would look like. Either on the left of this is our wastewater treatment plant, and then some of the how the donuts are made, of how that would work, and then reintroducing that water in the distribution center. Again, if we could do half of the potable reuse, we would kind of be good for generations. So we're gonna have the reuse study consultants, and they'll be on board soon, I believe in April. So I look for updates on that council, I'd say in the summer.
Hey, Cameron.
So we're also having discussions with WABA about landscaping, trying to take away the foothold that fescue has in the town. It's like the most water. It's the thirstiest grass out there, I guess I should say. Kind of moving towards buffalo grass or some of the less water intensive ones. So we're reviewing the landscape ordinances and requirements and kind of encouraging folks to xeriscape and use these more native grasses. And then working with WABA and others to try to evaluate reuse within new developments. As you can see from this picture, like in other cities, they have developments that have purple pipe that they reuse the kind of the storm runoff and reuse that for irrigation throughout the developments, and that's something that we'd love to see in Wichita.
Excuse me, buffalo grass is more priciest, right?
To be honest, I don't know as far as what it is compared to fescue.
Yes,
It could be, yeah.
just keep the,
But the savings in irrigation
yeah,
in the long run would far outweigh that.
okay.
All right, so if you want to go to the next one. So we kind of looked at other communities and what they're doing. Hayes is in kind of a different situation. Just they have had like a water shortage just because of the aquifer that they get their water from. So they have much more restrictive settings. So you cannot wash down hard surfaces as far as driveways and parking lots year round. You can get fined if water escapes your property. So sometimes you see when people are watering their grass that there's a steady stream in the gutter that just goes right to the storm sewer. You could get fined and Hayes for that. Oklahoma City had a different issue. So they went to even odd watering. So based on your address, you would water either on the even number days or the odd number days. And that worked so well for them that they just continued with that. So that's something that we would that we're considering is just going to even and odd, because you do not need to water your grass every single day. It's a waste. Go to the next slide. So next steps, again, stage 2, we're in that till the end of this year, most likely. We're making improvements to ASR and the local well fluid fields through 2025. We will go to single source of water treatment at Wichita Water Works at the end of 2025 or somewhere around there. Looking at the reuse with the consultant. We'll continue to have discussions with WABA, and then we're looking at developing recommended changes for conservation requirements going forward. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Questions from Dab?
Will the WAPA smaller group be the small group that's working on the recommended changes?
So I think, yeah, yes.
In that small group, is there someone from the community also represented? Obviously, those who work for WAPA are in the community affected by this. Not curious, like any neighborhood representation.
I'll have to check. Gary's been doing that, but I think that bullet point is both, they're gonna be a smaller group with WAPA and a smaller group internally, so we'll talk about the next steps as far as what we may bring to council as far as changes to the restrictions. But yeah, I can check on that.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions from Dab? Seeing none, any questions from the public?
Are we currently using groundwater?
Yes.
Because you talk about how we get credits for putting it back in, but so currently.
Yeah,
we're
like I
living
said,
off
the
groundwater.
mix of between surface, which is Cheney, and that we get from the Aquas bed is about 55 to 60% from Cheney and about 40% from the groundwater that we pull from the Aquas beds.
When you mentioned a credit, what happens when our credit runs out? Can we no longer use?
So you can only store so much. I mean, there's water rights throughout the state, you know, farmers use quite a bit of those, but we can get credit for recharging the Aquas beds at ASR. So if we got into a dire situation where for some reason Cheney completely dried up, we would be able to use those credits. I don't know that they expire. I'd have to look into that. I'm not an expert at the credit situation, but.
Yeah, question.
I live right by the new water treatment plant, and we've noticed that there's quite a bit of runoff, and some of the folklore that is around is that actually the water plant's pooling water, millions of water from Cheney to run the testing and then discharging it into
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. So we have to put the new water treatment plant through its paces. So we are treating water right now as they run tests, and then in order for us to get approval from the EPA and different organizations, we have to show that we can run at certain capacities and certain qualities. So there's just no way around it. It's terrible timing, of course, but that water is not necessarily wasted. It's going to be used downstream by other communities, but we have to test the new plant. It's just that we can't have $500 million plant because it's not commissioned.
how much of the water though is artificially, how much of the Cheney level is being artificially depleted by this testing versus in normal situations without?
I don't have an exact figure. I mean, we're not, so the plant could do 120 million gallons a day. You know, and the water that we're pushing through it is not a continuous amount, it's as needed. But it's a small portion.
Since that rain, sorry, I'm like, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, since that rain that happened in November, really Cheney's not gone down at all. Most of the reason why Cheney goes down so much is obviously one, lack of moisture, but two, then just the heat and wind evaporation is what causes it to lose water faster than what we're pulling from it for our drinking water supply. So.
Yeah, we remain pretty steady about, you know, in the 58 to 65% full for the past like 6 months.
And there was a lot of discussion on, do we really have to discharge all that water that we're testing with at the new plant? Is there any way that we could put it back into the pipe and just retreat it again down at the existing plant? And that was vetted quite a bit, and unfortunately, there was no way to, just because of the way the treatment process works, we couldn't recapture it and reuse it, so.
Any other questions?
I got a question, it's just curiosity, do you apply to, is it at all viable, or is it something on the internet?
I'm not an expert at that at all. We have a fellow at the with the Department of Energy who, that was her major, was meteorology. I guess it's worked in small sections, but can't, as far as I know, you can't really seed a cloud and it will go where it needs to go. The problem that we have is that it's not raining right where Cheney is. Like, it seems every time we get a storm, it kind of splits right around where we need it. But yeah, that's not a technology that I'm aware of that's been used for this type, at least in the US.
All right, those are all the questions. Thank you, sir. All right, we will move on to the public agenda. On the public agenda, first item is the golf court ordinance. It has hit the other DABs. We are the last DAB to hear this and give some feedback before council takes action on the 18th, I believe.
Sharon Dicker, City Law Department. Here we go. Currently, Kansas statutes prohibit the operation of golf carts on highways or on roadways where the speed limit is over 30 miles per hour. Golf carts are also prohibited on city streets unless the municipality has passed an ordinance allowing such operation. Here's a link, choose life. Little history: on January the 14th of this year, the city council passed on first reading an ordinance which would allow golf carts in certain areas. On January 21st, the item was pulled from the consent agenda and sent back out to DABs for comments. Last week, on February 25th, the council held a workshop to propose or to discuss the proposed ordinance and talk about comments from the other DABs. Currently, the ordinance would allow operation of golf carts on certain streets. It would prohibit the operation of golf carts on arterial streets, public highways, streets within the core area, and on areas where the posted speed limit is over 30 miles per hour. The core area is essentially the downtown area from Murdoch on the north, Hydraulic on the east, Kellogg on the south, and then Seneca, Nims, and Stackman as it goes along the river. Golf carts under the proposal could not cross highways or arterial streets. Additionally, under the proposed ordinance, golf carts must display a slow-moving vehicle emblem. They must be registered. A $75 registration fee was recommended. All golf carts must have proof of liability insurance. Operation of golf carts would be prohibited on sideways, walking trails, and bike paths. Operation of golf cart under the current proposal is not allowed in the evening hours. Drivers must be at least 18 years of age, and all golf carts must comply with all traffic laws. I have been out on the DAB circuit, as council member Johnson said, this is the last DAB. The DAB comments have varied. Generally, the concerns have been that the age should be reduced to 16. Golf carts should be allowed to operate at night with the appropriate equipment. Registration fee is too high. Golf carts should be allowed to cross highways and arterial streets. Golf carts should be allowed in the downtown core, and the seatbelt requirement is too burdensome. Following the workshop, Staff was given direction by Council Member Johnston that the age should be reduced to 16. Golf carts should be allowed to operate at night with certain equipment. No registration fee or registration required. Golf carts should be allowed to cross streets with speed limits over 30 miles per hour, as long as they go to a controlled intersection. Golf carts should be allowed in the downtown core only on sidewalks. The seat belt requirement was to be removed unless the golf cart came with seat belt, and all the penalties were reduced to $200 fine. And I'm here for questions, and I know Councilperson Johnson, who just left, is here for comments regarding those comments.
Questions from the DAB?
So in general, when you talk about having the proper equipment, we basically talk about lights, blinkers.
Currently, the ordinance requires that it has reflectors on the back, lights on the front, does not require seat belts, and it does require stoplights, taillights, a rear reflector, brakes, one functioning rearview mirror, and the current draft requires seat belts. The recommendation from City Councilman Johnston was that be taken out due to the cost of retrofitting golf carts.
What's the logic behind operating at the age of 16?
A variety of individuals who have children with driver's licenses wanted to allow their children over 16 to operate. The other thought process is if you're 16, you can get a license to operate a car. Shouldn't you be able to operate a golf cart in the same manner as you would operate a car?
Wouldn't that then contradict the no registration fee required, because you pay a fee when you go and get a driver's license?
That was a recommendation from City Council.
Have we looked at other cities in the best practices as a model? Particularly concerned about like the no seatbelt. I mean, one would think somebody going 30 miles per hour doesn't cause any issue, but
We have
that
looked,
could.
I have looked at lots of ordinances around the state and smaller jurisdictions around Wichita. They are really kind of split on the issue of seatbelts. I don't know of one that requires them to be retrofitted. They do require them if the golf cart comes with them at the time of manufacture, and those are going to be relatively new golf carts. But there is a safety concern.
Questions from those online in the DAB? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Any questions
Or comments.
or comments? Yes,
Do you want them to come up or?
if you can, yeah, please.
I just have a question.
If you can
Oh,
say your name for
sidewalks.
the record.
They,
just
they
let me
can
know.
ride on sidewalks in the core area? They can drive these on up and down sidewalks?
That was the recommendation that was made at the workshop.
And what is the core area?
Core area is Murdoch on the north, Kellogg on the south. Hydraulic on the Murdoch on the north, Hydraulic on the east, Kellogg on the south, Seneca Nims, and Stackman Drive on the west, so essentially up the river.
And liability insurance? Is a requirement for
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Any other questions from the public at this time? Or comments? Come on up, and if you want to state your name for the record, just so camera can get it notated in the notes.
Sure, my name's Stephanie Pittman. I live on the west side. Just some context for the staff and for the community. We have an old golf cart at my house. I don't live next to a golf course, but we do take golf cart rides at night. It's something we enjoy doing as a family. I have a 2005 golf cart that goes around 9 miles per hour. It's not fast. We're not hot rodding. It's just something that we enjoy during the week. So we have always thought in my neighborhood and in the surrounding neighborhoods that golf carts were legal so long as they were street legal. And to us, that meant we had a light, we had tail lights, we had reflectors. We weren't driving on sidewalks that I knew of. We were just going slow in our neighborhood during the evening or to the pool where I live. It came as a shock. I was watching Cake News and I saw on television that this new ordinance had been passed and all of these restrictions, one of which was no evening driving and no kids under 18 could drive. I have friends whose sons play golf and they are wanting to get into a college for golf playing. So immediately, you know, you just start seeing all of these restrictions on just one, enjoying just leisurely time, your feeling of community that you get, and also what, you know, the kids are able to play. So we started to be a bit of activists about the golf carts. One of the largest groups that came to us were based on the ordinance that was proposed was from District 1. And it was people that just did the same thing we do. They enjoy leisurely drives. They like to go to some of the bars. Some of them go back and forth from the arena. They even ferry the police officers back and forth during certain events. So it turned out to be a much larger impact than just my little West Side community. We went to a DAB in District 3. We've gone to DABs in 6. And it was all a collective information point of we just want to be able to drive safely, slowly in our golf carts when we want during the evening, so long as we are safe. Over and over, it kept coming up. You may wonder about the sidewalks here in District 1. It kept being mentioned that the city was allowing scooters and in fact encouraging the e-scooters to drive around. Those did not have seatbelts. Those were at night. There was no registration. There was no ticketing. There's no real laws that are impacting them. They're being haphazardly left and they go much faster than the golf carts that we are contemplating here go. So there's been kind of this, just really wanting to educate those on, I see one of the questions by Abby is operating golf carts on bike paths. It is, and that's what we've noticed, that a lot of the new sidewalks are 10 to 15 feet wide. And those of us who have operated them in our neighborhoods, in our areas, sometimes we do go on to sidewalks to get across the street. But if we see a pedestrian, we always give right away. We always pull over. We're not on somebody's grass. And it happens so very, very rarely. There's a lot of District DAB 6 residents that there are these huge paths that are being built and they're empty right now. And so, you know, a couple of golf carts is not a big impact. So that's why we're coming. We're just like saying, let's not over ordinance and let's not beat something up that doesn't need to be addressed. You know, let's have reasonable restrictions that ensure safety. I think we're all willing to do that. One other question that has come up is about seatbelts. Old carts like mine and any cart that you don't buy, you know, from say Lowe's right now, you're not going to have factory installed seatbelts. It doesn't exist. And the ordinance as written did not allow for retrofit seatbelts either. So it was factory installed. Immediately, it would invalidate the ability to use any of our golf carts. And there was another in the last presentation that showed that the revisions of the ordinance wanted to allow crossing of highways. I don't know of anyone in any of these DABs that have said that anybody wants the ability to cross highways. It just safely cross arterial streets to get from one side to another. A use case is there are a lot of neighbors that live around golf carts that live across, say, 29th Street or Edgemore or some of the other golf courses. There would be no way for them to get from one point A to point B. So it would really have an impact on all your golf courses and any green space that just people want to have community. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Question, how do you define golf cart? Is there a definition of what vehicle is a golf cart?
Yes. There's a definition set forth in state statute that we've adopted. And the ordinance is clear that a golf cart is not a gator, it's not an ATV. It is a golf cart that by state statute is defined by as a motor vehicle that has less than 3 wheels, weighs less than 1,800 pounds, is designed to be operated at not more than 25 miles per hour, and is designed to carry not more than 4 people.
More than 3 wheels?
Not less than 3 wheels.
Not less.
Not less than 3 wheels. So it can't be a 2-wheeled tandem motorcycle.
Any other questions from the public?
Yeah, I just was curious, is the requirement for marker lights or reflectors, does that include the sides of the golf carts as well for like situations of open intersections after dark?
No. That had been recommended by staff and we have not been instructed to include that in the ordinance. Yes,
I hesitate to ask because if I do, you might come up with some, but are there any regulations on e-bikes and those little scooters that are just,
we
like
have,
she says, scattered everywhere?
we have lots of ordinances relating to the electric scooters. The reason why the electric scooters aren't registered is that the city has an operating agreement with most of the vendors downtown, the VO Ride, the Bird when they first got here. But there are a number of ordinances that I wrote. You can't operate them on a sidewalk. They can't be on bike trails. They are supposed to be parked properly on the sidewalks or at least out of traffic. They're to ride as close to the right side as possible. So there is a series of ordinances relating to the electric scooters, electric bikes. It's kind of one of those gray areas. Is it a bicycle? Is it a motor vehicle? Is it a scooter? So we do not have anything specifically regulating electric bikes.
Good.
Any other comments, feedback from the public? Seeing none. Thank you, Sharon. This was just comments and suggestions. No votes.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8, off agenda items, which means something that is not on our agenda going forward. Is there anyone here who has an off agenda item for the day?
That's public agenda, right?
Yep.
It's Harold Schlegway, and I live in Delano. But I'm here because I'm on the board of an organization called ICT Trees. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit. And we're about 3 years old. And last spring, we had a free tree giveaway. Because our job is to help people plant trees. We had it here in 67214 zip code, which includes this area. We want to do it again this year in the spring, April 12th at Murdoch Park. So if you want a free tree, there's a sign-up sheet in the back if you're interested, and we will get you the information to do that. We operate on a grant from Evergy right now. We are trying to raise lots more money so that we can give away more trees. We cited the location where we planted trees based on a 2022 study that NASA and the city of Wichita did, which located urban hotspots around the city of Wichita. There's 17 census tracts that have been designated as urban heat islands. So we're looking at the neighborhoods that surround those heat islands. And that's where we have targeted our efforts. And we plan to continue doing this. foreseeable future. So if you're interested, sign up for more information in the back. If you're a homeowner, a church, or a business, you have to make a commitment to keep this tree alive for 3 years. And piggybacking a little bit on the water report that you received, I have 6 water barrels at my house. And that's plenty of water that I need to support any kind of new tree. And in fact, a tree uses less water than turf grass and uses, so you can plant a tree for that first 3 years, 10 gallons of water every 7 to 10 days when it isn't raining. And that tree will grow and it will provide you with lower utility bills, increased property values, lower outside summer temperatures for your neighborhood, and it filters groundwater and even helps clean the air. And if you like breathing oxygen, trees provide us.
Any questions for the speaker?
Is there a deadline for when to?
We are going to do, it's going to be at Murdoch Park, and it's going to be on April 12th. If you're interested, please sign up right away. The publicity beyond here, is going to go out in a couple weeks, and we'll have advertisements, and we have a we'll have a QR code you can key into, and if you live outside the area, you say, we're coming to your neighborhood, we'll get back to you. If you are in that area that we're planting trees, you'll be able to sign up for a free tree. Only those people that are registered will be able to sign up for a free tree. When we run out of trees, we have 50, I'd have 100, we got 50 with our grant from Evergy. Maybe we'll have more by the end of this year.
Any questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will jump to item. We will jump to item 9, updates, issues, and reports. We'll start on. Okay.
Hi, I'm Emily Taylor. I'm the District 1 representative on the Historic Preservation Board. Just coming to give kind of an annual update. Most members of the public probably don't hear anything about the Historic Preservation Board at all. But we meet once a month. It's 1 representative from every city council district and then 1 mayor appointee. So there's 7 of us. Kind of have a variety of backgrounds, but any property that is listed on the Wichita Historic Register, or there, we also have a state and a national historic register. Anytime you would pull a permit or do anything to apply for tax credits associated with a project on one of those properties, it comes to the Historic Preservation Board for review. So last year, the Historic Preservation Board reviewed 69 cases. 65 of those were approved and only 3 denied, and then there was 1 that was denied and then appealed successfully to the city council. Some of the notable cases that we reviewed last year, when in District 1, we obviously review across the whole city, but from our district, window replacement on the Orpheum, they had quite a few of those that are original and are really bad shape. We have lots of applications for signage in Old Town. There's a couple historic districts that kind of like cover the Old Town area. So anytime somebody wants to put up a sign or do renovations to properties in the Old Town, that comes through us. And then lots of like storefront and window replacements in the Old Town area as well. And then the Corrigan Education Center at on the Wichita State campus is a Frank Lloyd Wright designed building, one of the most famous American architects, and that was came to the Historic Preservation Board for support to be listed on the state and national registers. So we also review cases like that. And we've also had one of those just since the beginning of this year. Existing, it was previously one of the Wichita Public Schools. So anytime trying to get a property listed to the local, state, or national register, and that comes to the Historic Preservation Group for support too. And then the only other big one I found that was outside of District 1 that you guys would probably recognize is upgrades and repairs to the Kansas Aviation Museum to support expanding their programming. So, if there's any questions from the board, the public would be happy to let you know more about exciting work on historic preservation.
Questions from that?
Do you all assist with the process of going through? I'm thinking like the national registry.
So we're like the community representative voting group. We do have a member of the planning staff she's basically dedicated to all historic work. She's actually District 1 resident too. She just bought like a really old house. So everybody that's involved in it is kind of like, a lot of us live in really old houses. So there's kind of like personal passion projects, but she is the one that like, you turn in an application to the planning department, she helps you kind of go through the steps and then also helps evaluate and like help people prepare those applications for listing.
Any questions from the public?
I see the Crown Uptown Theater is back in the news. Did that come to your attention?
I am sure that it will come to our attention soon. We met like at the mid-February and kind of all of that has come out since our last meeting, but I'm sure it will be coming out soon. And I'm sure Councilman Johnson would love to give updates on that if he has more information than I do. So
I just like to know you're thinking about it.
mine personally,
No, I just like to know you're thinking about it.
oh, yes, we are well aware that something will be coming related to Crown Uptown. I'm also a College Hill resident, so I've been following what's going on in that case for a while. And then just like personally, I'm really interested in keeping it a part of our neighborhood.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Any other off agenda items? All right, we'll move on to item 9, updates, issues, and reports. We'll start online. Any DAB members online?
Yes, I've got a update. There's going to be April 5th. It's Sonia, and I always get the name wrong, but it's a one-day camp introducing girls to STEM. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All are welcome. All are welcome though, but it does target introducing girls to STEM. It's going to be on campus April 5th. Free camp. So if you have any middle school or high schoolers interested, they can find that information on the Wichita State website. And then I have a question, Councilman Johnson. I don't know if you could answer this or take this back. I was hoping that WPD would be here today, but and I know I spoke to you briefly about this, but it is in reference to regarding neighborhoods that have experienced a drive-by shooting. So I'm wanting to know what the protocol or process is for alerting and keeping the neighbors in the loop, or it's kind of just like this tragic thing happened in your neighborhood, on your block, and then you just don't hear anything else about it. That's kind of alarming to me. So, I mean, a letter could be sent, they knock on the door to, check to see if your house was hit, but afterwards it's like just nothing occurred. And so I'm just wanting to see if there is something, if there actually is something that can be shared, or is that just up to the neighbor to then call the station to get any information, or do you know anything around that?
So you can give me the address offline so I can check into it, but the process is a shooting or violent incident occurs. WPD will show up shortly afterwards, knock every door in the neighborhood. They will set an impact meeting for within 24 to maybe 72 hours, depending on weather and the situation. Impact meeting, they will block off the street, knock every door, and invite everybody out to the middle of the street to talk about what happened, give out their cards for information.
So that did not happen. That that did not happen at all.
Right.
And it's the address that I gave you, which is a known landlord that has had issues with other shootings at her property. So that did not happen. There was no impact. There was no debrief. There was no, I'm pretty sure they spoke with residents in the house and it looked like they were moving, but I don't think so. I don't know. So just an update would be really helpful for neighbors because it's just like, okay, this happened and now what, you know? But that impact, that brief, that did not happen.
Follow up from your last email.
Yeah. It was I think it was a Facebook message actually, not an email.
Okay, I'll check it out. Was that all for you?
Yep, that's it.
All right, Chelsea said nothing, anything from, nope. All right. We'll start to my right. I think I started to my left last time.
My name is Kaylin. I do not have any updates today.
Lawanda DeShazer, I want to put a plug in for the center. We do after-school programming every Thursday night from 5 to 7 p.m. It is for pre-K through 6th graders. And if you got a 7th grader, we'll let you come in as well. We offer a meal, and then they go into, we may do some type of STEM activity. Once a month, the mobile library will come out. It's totally free. So if you need something positive for your children to do, come to the center every Thursday until school is out, 5 to 7 p.m.
Joseph.
And in that vein, building on that, there's no shortage too. So depending on where you're at in the community, there's also the Scholars Hub starting at the Urban League. They're doing a soft launch for their after-school tutoring services. So whether it's the center or the Urban League, if you know of children in your community or just kids in general who need assistance academically, please check out the center or the Scholars Hub. They're starting tomorrow from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. And or homework help on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So check that out. Also, happy Women's History Month to all the women. Shine Awards, Storytime Village hosts every year. On March 8th this year, they're honoring a plethora of women who do phenomenal work in our community, and their organization supports literacy. So check them out. I think tickets are officially offline right now, but check out the great work that they're doing. I know that they have some important work that they're going to be building in Fairmount neighborhood. And then finally from Shaquila Banks, there is on March 20th at the Advanced Learning Library, a program on rethinking bail, sentencing, and mental health. So if you're interested in learning more about that topic, please check that out.
Awesome. All right, with that, we will jump to item number 10, council member updates and announcements. I'll be brief. There's really like one main thing people are talking about right now. So I'll start from the bottom. March 18th is our first evening meeting of the year. So March 18th, 6 p.m., City Hall will be our evening meeting of the City Council. I believe that golf carts will be on that meeting. So if you're interested in golf carts and the conversation we just had, that's the meeting to be at, 6 p.m. Next week, for me, starting Saturday, but next week, all of the City Council will be in Washington, D.C. for National League of Cities. We go every year. We also meet with our federal delegation. That's going to be really important right now with all the uncertainty in DC around funding and everything, to try to get a better understanding of what may or may not be impacted here in the city and try to advocate for the things that help us. So that'll be next week. National League of Cities is an organization that represents about 5,000 cities across the country. They've been beneficial to me personally, my growth as a council member, as well as our city. They've kind of connected us to some resources when we needed it. One of the things I think the public has seen that's been public facing is the ethics ordinance. We reached out to them, connected with the mayor of another city, Clarence, the director of this organization, organized all of this for a workshop for us. And, you know, it's just part of being a member. Wichita also has a deep history in NLC. Mayor Bob Knight was actually one of the presidents of NLC when he was mayor. and help change the organization drastically. So Wichita has a favorite place within the LC. So we'll be out there for that. And then, of course, the also popular Crown Uptown. The item that comes to the council tomorrow is an opportunity to extend the internal controls that we have, stop the demolition. So if council approves it, I don't say until the vote, but if council were to approve it, then it could be extended 180 days. And that would allow for the developer to find some better opportunities for the Crown Uptown other than demolishing it. If he chooses to do so, there's also some additional steps we could take as a council. Still working that out. You may hear that tomorrow, but hopeful that will pass tomorrow. And we will see what happens from there. That is an item on our regular agenda. So anybody who wants to encourage us to extend it, feel free to show up at City Hall tomorrow, 9 o'clock. You'll have 5 minutes to tell us what you think about it. Or if you want to see the opposite, you can let us know that as well. But again, that item is on tomorrow, and then golf carts again on March 18th. I think those are probably the hottest topics that I have been hearing about. But I am happy to answer any questions from the DAB or the public at this point. Any questions from DAB? I'm batting at 1,000. All right, any questions from the public? All right. Well, those are my updates. Next month's District 1 breakfast will be at Edgemore. First Saturday, 9:30. I don't have the guests picked out yet, but we will be at Edgemore to check that out. I like taking our breakfast around our district, so everybody in the district can engage. And at some point, we'll have a breakfast at the Brewer Center. Please tell my colleague in District 3 that the District 1 breakfast is better than District 3. With that, we'll move on to item number CUP 2025-00003.
You don't have questions because you're very.
I appreciate it.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Ziebenberg, I'm with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. In case, for those of you on DAB are wondering, that staff person who handles historic preservation is Christina Reed. She's been before you many times. She's part of our cycle. So if that puts a face to a name, she's our internal person who handles historic preservation, the staff liaison to the Historic Preservation Board. Into this item tonight, CUP 2503 is a request to amend the community unit plan located on the northwest corner of 13th and Oliver. To help put in perspective, this is not the space that it's going into, but the new lock supply store has gone into like that formal Walmart space. So that's the area that we're talking about here. This is actually one of the commercial buildings to the west of that lock supply store that has been vacant for some time. The applicant is requesting to allow for an entertainment establishment. They're actually looking to do events, so essentially an event center, but it could hold wedding receptions or other things. And anytime there's alcohol and or entertainment combined, we have to define it as an entertainment establishment. There is provisions within our conditions of approval that would require this to be accessory to an event center. What that means is that it would have to be an event center first, which means it doesn't have daily hours. It only has alcohol and or entertainment anytime there's an event. So with the new definition of entertainment establishment, technically you could have a very small nightclub that's under 300 people, and that's what we want to protect against. And so by making accessory to an event center, the events have to be planned, they have to be scheduled in advance. You know, somebody's wedding reception, somebody's birthday party, something like that, which protects against it possibly changing hands in the future and somebody coming in and putting something that would actually have more negative impacts to the community than we feel that this one would. I'm being fairly general. There's a lot of detail in your staff report. The surrounding areas you guys are fairly familiar with is mostly commercial. Lincoln and Oliver is a very commercial corner. Where we looked at is north of the parcel that you see outlined in black across 14th Street is single family residential. Cameron, can you go to the aerial image towards the back of the report? There you go. Thank you. The good thing about that is you see the building there on the very west side, you have a whole bunch of parking. between that and 14th Street, and then you have the houses on the opposite side of 14th Street. So there's a bit of spacing between the building and when you actually get to the residential uses. Overall, staff is recommending approval. This went to planning commission this last week on the 27th. And they, it was on a consent item, which meant the planning commission accepted staff recommendation, and there was no one in the public who was there to speak against it. The recommendation of approval comes with conditions, and the first one is entertainment establishment shall be accessory to event center, which is what I just explained. No outside speakers or entertainment permitted, so all types of noise-making activities have to be inside the building, which will also decrease the impact of possible noise on the community. Not to mention there's a Wichita Weight noise ordinance and things like that, should they really think they need to pump it loud inside the building. And then entertainment shall occur between noon, so 12 p.m. to midnight, 12 a.m. So, you know, events can't start prior to noon and they can't last longer than midnight, and that's Monday through Sunday, Sunday through Monday, 7 days a week. So again, we haven't had any public opposition to this. Planning commission recommended a unanimous approval of it, and I can stand for any questions that you guys might have. I'm looking at 3, and I know there's more online. It's not easy today. Hey, is it a full moon?
Gotta check the chat first.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah. So are you kind of co-sharing? I'm gonna look for you to move this along.
Sure, we can do that.
You can call for public comment and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We go out to the public now after we have any questions, concerns? It is. Is there a motion?
Gonna have to hear from the applicant.
I'll make those questions. I'm Ashley Fouts, I'm the applicant.
Thank you for being here.
Sure thing.
Is there a motion?
Motion to, is it to accept the recommendation?
Sure, that works.
Is there a second? Oh, look, there's a second. All right, all those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Those virtually can type it in or unmute.
Cameron, do you know how many people we have online in here? I think I'm counting 9. 7? Okay.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it.
All right.
Comment. So I just want to thank Ashley for always trying to do something to uplift that community. An event center is definitely needed, and so just want to thank you for just doing something positive in that neighborhood.
I appreciate it. Well, it turned into a nightclub, so I appreciate nobody thinking that or trying to.
Darn, I was hoping.
And
you would.
the zones weren't allowed anyway.
Right. Thank you for.
All right, well, I'm up
Next
next.
case,
So
yep.
next case is gonna sound like a broken record a little bit. This is Con 2523. It's located on the northeast corner of Douglas and Hillside. The address is 3202 East Douglas. It's a fairly prominent building. You all will recognize when you see the pictures. This is for an event center, so not an entertainment establishment. We did reach out to the applicants and to ask them, hey, you're looking at holding events. A lot of times we do that, do you plan on possibly having alcohol and or entertainment, just so you know, so we can define it correctly. And our understanding is that they do not intend to provide alcohol or entertainment, so that we do only need to define it as an event center. The only reason this is coming in, if you think about that, it's fairly heavily commercialized. This is within 300 feet of residential zoning. You've got some residential zoning that's actually used as the parking lot. That's the closest one, but you have the new townhomes that are being built kind of to the northeast. And so that's why it's coming before you. The property is zoned limited commercial and general commercial. They have a lease area that they would like to host small gatherings for indoor rehearsal dinners, bridal showers, and baby showers. They've got their own parking. If you go to the aerial, I know this is across the street from Crown Uptown and the idea of parking comes up. They've got their own parking lot, kind of on the rear side of their building that they can occupy and use for the events that should be able to accommodate the size of events that they're looking for, knowing it's a fairly small tenant space. So there's really should be no concerns with that. Again, the surrounding character is predominantly commercial uses. Of course, you have Crown Uptown across the street, which is a theater, regardless of its capacity, as well as retail, restaurants, the whole 9 yards. You guys know the neighborhood better than I do. So, though the comprehensive plan identifies it for new residential, that category actually says that commercial uses can be developed in there with market-driven factors. This is a commercial intersection, has been zoned commercial for quite some time, so there's no issue there. And the places for people plan encourages infill development that is contextual to the environment, as well as improving the economic feasibility for commercial and service uses in the markets that's necessary to support them. Staff is recommending approval, subject to conditions that there's supplemental use regulations in our zoning code. And those predominantly identify when they have to be conditional uses, so that's why it's here. But then it has some things, if there would be some outdoor type uses, outdoor type space like patios and things like that. Doesn't look like that's an option here, but they would just have to adhere to those regulations. Then it has to talk about like number of seating and when you need to provide additional parking and bathroom space and stuff. So no real concerns there. And then it would operate with the approved site plan, and we work with the applicant on that through this process. This is going to Planning Commission on the 13th, so we don't have any information from them at this time. So it's coming to Dow first on this cycle, and I can stand for any questions. I don't believe we've heard any public opposition to this. Let me double check the report here. We've heard some concerns of persons concerned about sufficient parking. And there was an attachment to your staff report regarding that. But again, given the small tenant space that they're looking to occupy, and they have their own private parking lot behind their building, there should really be no concern.
Questions from the desk?
You know, some of those businesses aren't even open all the time during regular hours, right? Okay.
Is this letter, I'm looking at the right one, we on COM 2025,
Yep.
23, so there was. at
Yes,
least
we did
one.
receive one letter with concerns about parking.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I believe the applicant is here. If you'd like to speak.
Are there any questions?
Any questions for the applicant?
Okay.
Good evening, my name is Regina Phelps and I am one of the applicants. I did print off because I knew that parking was gonna come up. A few things just for the DAB and anybody else who wants one. I obviously didn't print off like enough for everyone. Yeah, there you go. So on the first page, you'll see everybody that is under the R&L investments surrounding our parking lot. If you would, Cameron, could you pull that back up for me, that aerial? So what we're talking about isn't even this whole building, so I'm gonna step away from the mic just to show you. This is where the venue would be. Sorry, Cameron.
Can you share the screen, Cameron, please?
So it's in between, there's 3 businesses here, okay? So this is a different business, this is a separate business, this is a separate business back here. So we're kind of squeezed in the middle here. So it's much smaller than it looks like even on the aerial. Furthermore, so we talked with all of our neighbors with R&L Investments and anyone east of us up to 200 feet, just to tell them, this is what we're thinking about doing. We'd love to know what your concerns are. We did address parking because, well, our neighbor is also Crown Uptown. And so we wanted to make sure that we squashed any issues there. We have since then spoken with Fiorito and Speedy Cash. And so that's the second page in what I just passed out. Apologies to everyone online. Speedy Cash has about 20 spaces and they're more than happy to work with us. They close almost every night at 8 p.m. as well as Saturdays, I believe Saturdays at 6 p.m. and then Sundays they're closed all day. So when we're talking about a baby shower on a Sunday, they're completely happy with taking over that parking for us. Fiorito as well on Sundays, and they're really willing to work with us in general. So as long as we didn't get anything in writing with them because we're not approved, and so it felt kind of like a waste of their time. Once we are approved, we're happy to move forward with getting things in writing with them. We have a lot of different ideas on how we think that that would work, not just with R&L investment customer or leasees, but also everyone that is east of us, 200 feet. Any questions?
And the business that was previously there,
Love of character.
and it was
Illegal.
partially an event center and.
Well, they didn't have any permits for it, but
Oh, okay.
they did that, yeah. So that is really great point that you bring
Yeah.
up. When we found out that we would need to get a conditional use permit, we did not do what a lot of other businesses in the city of Wichita have done, which is they just have their events anyway until they get caught, fined, or shut down. We really wanted to do this the right way. We took Mr. Johnson, Councilman Johnson's advice, went out, shook hands, talked to people, and told people we want to do this differently. We know it's been cumbersome with Crown Uptown, and we don't want to be like that, so.
Thank you for getting out and taking hands and having the tough conversations, because I think.
It really
goes a
wasn't
long
hard.
way.
I think people want to work
Yeah.
together, and I think that people put community over competition, and as long as you put your best foot forward, I think they're willing to match you right there in the middle. Any other questions?
Yes, online. I heard baby showers as events to be held in the space. Is there any concerns or renovations planned for food service?
No, it is literally like you come in, you drop your stuff, we're doing 4 hours for $500. You come in, you drop your stuff, you set up. After 4 hours, get your stuff, get out. I mean, it's very cut and dry. We're not offering any decor or really anything in there. We're giving.
Official space.
Yeah, we're not doing any liquor or anything like that. If somebody wanted to do something like that, they would have to go and get their own bartending company to provide that for them. We're not doing it. We're just being a skeleton, the bones of an event center, and they can come in and do whatever they need to.
Question, did you talk to Robin?
Yes, I spoke with her over the phone.
Okay, so you guys came to an agreement?
Robin does have concerns, and I understand those concerns. Again, like Crown Uptown there's a lot of history there. We're not privy to that. There was a lot of history with Love of Character. You know, I wasn't there for any of that. But, one of the things I did point out to her is like how wonderful it is for Fiorito and Speedy Cash to work with us. If we use our parking lot, which we're happy to do, parking's out back. And so really you want people to see that beautiful entrance. And if we have the opportunity, like it seems like we're going to use somebody's entrance for the front door, we're happy to do that. And I told Robin, as well as all of the people that are leasing from her, that we are happy to be very communicative on when we're having an event, what time. And it's super important to us that we're not having events when they are open. The only time that that's really gonna kind of be an issue is Lance's open from 10 to 8 on Fridays. They're the only company that's open after 6 p.m. on Fridays. So I can't imagine a salon having 50 people in it at once.
Yeah.
So I think that if we had clients that showed up at 6 to set up, probably 2 people for the first hour, and then they have their event for the next 3, I really, would there be about an hour of overlap? Sure. But I don't think that it would be to the extent that it's the issue that Robin has definitely experienced in the past.
And that's High Salon, right? The lawn, you said lawn.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's about 10 chairs in there.
Yeah. So if they each one had a guest with them, which I never do, I don't ever want to take someone to the salon. Then, 10 to 20 people maybe in there at a time. Here. Yeah, anything else? Anything online? Did I miss anything else?
Yeah, I was like, you're ready to join the band.
Yeah.
All right. Any comments, questions from the public?
Well, I heard my wife's name, Rod. My name is Art Davis. I live in College Hill. We've lived there since 1984, and we are literally the neighbor next door. My wife would be here, but she's having surgery, so she's literally laid up. But our concerns is, I think presently there's inadequate parking for the tenants that they do have. They have 5 tenants, and they have roughly 26 employees, and if you count spaces that are on the parking lot, you don't even come up with 26. And now you're gonna add an event center. We have the 2 spaces that were referenced, High Salon and Attitudes, and we have 2 tenants. And we have roughly the same parking. There have been events that have been put on Hereafter, which is one of the properties that uses the same parking lot. And they have events, and when they have events, they bring in trucks, and they bring in trailers, and they set up tents, and then they flood our parking lot. So it would be nice to get along with them, but, and not to be a Grinch, we do share a portion of the parking lot. And if we didn't even share that, they would have even less parking. So I guess my point is that sometimes enough's enough, and maybe it's just a little bit too much. So I would just suggest that you deny the application to put in an event center that's gonna bring in another 50-some people. And however many cars that's gonna take. And one further point that is, you do have to keep in mind, parking along Douglas during the day is completely full. You have to keep in mind that the parking on Route 10, which is the street immediately behind, is full of parking for the Uptown Landing apartments. So the only parking that pardon?
And the burger, yeah, Sport Burgers line.
Sport Burgers line.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You've got Sports Burger, which is an institution in this city. that
Yeah, absolutely.
Fills up that street at night. So I'm not quite sure where all these cars are gonna go, and I would like to get along with them, but just seems to me that there's not adequate parking to put in a tenant plus an event center. And although they say they're never gonna compete, if you allow this, how do we know when they're gonna use them?
When I leave at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at night, because I own one of those businesses, there isn't a car on the parking lot and I'm walking out by myself, so.
Same. And also, we are working with Speedy Cash and Fiorito, which is another 50 spaces. So I guess I'm confused on how many, you have 50 attendees, and we have 26 spaces plus what the Hereafter has, which is another 6, plus Fiorito, plus Speedy Cash. I mean, how many people do you think we're putting in this building? When I go to an event, I usually ride with somebody else. I don't know about everybody else.
So I think the more important thing is the hours of operation. We really are sticking to only allowing people to book outside of our neighbor's operation. So there technically should be nobody there in the businesses around us in the event hours that we're suggesting.
So will we get written notice of those, and
We're happy to
there
do
is a
that.
conflict
Yeah,
because-
absolutely.
We're happy to do that, yeah.
Because our tenants do put on after-hour events.
Yeah.
Attitudes had one just the other night.
Well, can we get a written notice from you about your events in the evenings?
I don't think I should have to, because we provide adequate parking for our tenants.
Well, does it Attitudes have the conditional use permit to be having those events?
It's not an event center. This is where they invite guests to come in and look at their dancewear. We're not putting on rehearsal dinners. We're not having baby showers. We're not
Sure.
serving alcohol. We're just having somebody come in and look at the dancewear.
But if it's gonna affect our parking and we're supposed to be getting along and we're both neighbors, wouldn't it just be nice for you to tell us so we don't plan something on the same day?
Again,
I just don't understand why it couldn't be
not only,
reciprocal.
not only does Attitudes have the parking behind their building, but they also have parking because we're the owners of Traditions Home, which is next door.
But
We
don't
have
they share
more than enough
the
parking
pie?
for ourselves, and it's important to us to protect our parking and not have to share it with the world. And if you have permission from El Burritos and Speedy Cash and your event center, people wanna park over there, that's fine and dandy, but I have a feeling like at here and after, what they're gonna do is they're gonna bring in their trucks and their trailers and their tents, and they're gonna set it up all over our parking lot. And I don't know why we should have to put up with that.
Honestly, I don't know what he's referring to because
Well, just jumping into the back and forth, it sounds like they're actually asking to be partners with you and you communicate when you each are doing events so you don't overlap. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, again, I have adequate parking. I don't know why I should have to notify them of when my events are. It seems to me that they're asking me for use of my parking, not the other way around. And I'm just.
Well, the words were, let them know so they could schedule events around that, so it wouldn't be an issue for you at all.
Well,
I have a suggestion. When we get to this motion, I'm gonna suggest that, since you said you're willing to have your events 6 p.m. to.
Yeah.
We could just add that.
Yeah,
Whereas-
on
we'll
Saturdays
just add it.
and
Fridays,
all day on
Saturdays, we're talking
Friday.
about rehearsal dinners. Nobody's eating rehearsal lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, I
You
think
know what I
the.
mean?
Yeah, okay,
we do have a lot.
wait. You guys are going
Can
back
we
and
add
forth.
that to the
You guys are going back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think that's productive. So I think we should move forward. I think we heard you and I think we heard you.
that's a good point. I would just say this. I don't operate the businesses, so I don't know when the events are gonna occur. She operates the business, so it's much easier for her to come to my tenants and tell them. But thank you for listening.
Anybody else from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the DAB and staff.
Did Abby have a question or is that an old?
No, the whole question. I asked.
So can we add something or is it already in there that events happen?
This one does not have a condition for operating hours like the last one did. So to answer your question, yes, you could add a condition of operating hours.
So now I have a question. So why do I have conditions on
Any-
operating hours? I mean, not that I wanna change it, 12 to 12 is fine.
I would say we need to talk offline
Okay.
because it's now there.
Okay, no worries, it's fine. I was just wondering, cause. I've got questions, so I was wondering. It's good, I'm good with my
So
hours.
back it down, is there any more discussion on this or motions or?
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to accept
She's down there.
recommendation and add, it's not protection, add, what is it?
Just a condition of approval.
Just a condition of approval that events are start at 6 P.M.
On Saturdays.
No.
Well, that could be,
Tuesdays.
yeah,
Fridays.
yeah.
Fridays, Sundays.
But Sundays, we have open parking with City Cash being closed all day. So we would ask that on Sundays,
The
we have.
daily's a little different
Wait,
depending
wait.
on who's
Yeah,
operating.
yeah.
Sundays? What?
I mean, we would, yeah, we would like. for it to
Just,
be-
no, just the condition from Monday through Saturday.
Yeah,
Monday through Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. Monday through Saturday.
So events would have to start at 6 PM or later, Monday through Saturday. And are allowed all day on Sunday. Just so we know that Sunday can be allowed.
yes, that would be great. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So just to repeat, Ms. DeShazer's motion would be to approve, subject to staff recommendation with the additional condition that events on Monday through Saturday would have to start at 6 PM or later, but they can operate all day on Sunday. Does that sound right, Luanda?
So I thought you don't operate on Sundays.
I'm just a landowner.
Right.
My tenants on occasion have evening hours. My tenants on occasion do put on events at night. And it sounds to me like what we're gonna say is they can put an event on every Monday through Saturday and Sunday. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it.
Yeah, because I thought you were saying that, I thought we were in consensus that at 6 PM, your tenants stop.
Not always.
Not necessarily. So you said not necessarily.
Correct. High Salon will have, will have clients that he's gonna see after 6.
Until 8 PM. Yes, that's true.
And that's one reason why we had to put up a fence right where his back door main entrance is because we've had issues which we brought to the owner of the property, Bob, because delivery trucks and cars, and you can see if you went back to the parking lot, you would see that they were parking on a portion of our property.
I didn't hear that at first.
It did get a little heated.
Yeah, I think a lot of animosity comes from previous tenants and previous issues that we are really trying to combat up front because we know it's an issue and we don't want negativity. We want to be working with our neighbors in a positive way and using a building that isn't technically a historical landmark, but a lot of people in the neighborhood love that building and want to be able to use it. So we really want to highlight that and do that.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Seconded by Abby. Is there any further discussion on said motion?
The only thing I would say is with the commitments to work with Speedy Cash and the other businesses in that area. Walkability is a thing, and I don't think it's a bad thing if we walk. And I think multiple businesses can exist at one time, and I actually think it adds vibrancy to our community, and it goes hand in hand with the character of the neighborhood of College Hill. I mean, they talk about walkability in their neighborhood plan all the time. So I will not be supporting this motion, not because I'm not supportive of the work that you all are doing, but I think it goes against the city's plan to encourage walkability and to add more vibrancy to the neighborhood.
So I didn't hear all of the discussion. Right? I may not vote on my own motion.
Do you retract it?
Yeah, I want to retract it. I want to rethink it.
Motion has been retracted. Tex did comment based on what was shared in the use. He's a nay to the motion, but a yay to staff recommendation. Similar to Joseph. So now there is no motion on the floor. Does anyone else have a motion?
Move to accept staff's recommended recommendation with the.
Subject to conditions which are fairly standard that do not include hours of operation.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to accept staff's recommendation. Is there a second? Seconded by Chelsea. Further discussion on the motion.
I just want to say, you all said that you would be good neighbors, right? And you will let them know when you plan to have an event. It probably doesn't have to go the other way. So if you're gonna be good neighbors, so we got it on record. They're gonna be good neighbors.
I've tried to be a good neighbor. We're sharing portion of the parking lot, so it's not like I'm a Grinch.
No, and I'm saying, they said that they will be a good neighbor to you.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion on the table that has been seconded. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say.
Has anyone discussed possible parking options behind Margaritas?
I haven't gone that far to talk to them. Once Fiorito and Speedy said yes, we're not planning on having a big enough event that we would really need it. I'm happy to have those conversations. It's also outside of, that 200 foot. So, that's kind of the other reason why I hadn't gone there yet.
All right. All in favor, please respond by saying aye or positive sign online. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Philip.
Okay.
We did not stay until midnight tonight.
Right here.
All right, before we adjourn, our next meeting is April 7th, 2025, 6 o'clock in this room. Look forward to seeing you here. Remember, the April breakfast is over at Edgemore. Thank you all for being here. This meeting is adjourned.